Moving along, let's talk about the total income for a continuous income stream. Wouldn't that be nice? Your income is just continuous, is just constantly flowing in with no gaps. Well, okay, maybe that's not realistic, but uh, perhaps for a business, it almost happens that way. Depending on how many clients or what exactly is going on, there might be money constantly coming in, or at least you could approximate it well that way. Okay, so what are we going to do? So the total income. So think of your income stream as happening from a starting time to an ending time. So between these two times, how much total income is it? So the total income would be the integral from your starting time A to your ending time B of your flow rate, f of t dt. Right? We got all these kind of like words that sound like water, right? The income stream, the flow rate for your income, it's just pouring in. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're actually not going to do an example of this one um, because, well, it doesn't get any simpler than this. So you'll see some homework problems. They'll tell you the flow rate. They'll tell you between what two times, A and B. Take the integral. I mean, there's really nothing. And that'll tell you the total amount of income that occurred during that time period. I mean, we could do one, but I mean, there's not a whole lot to really say about that or to point out. So we're going to move right on to something a little bit more difficult. The future value of a continuous income stream. Okay, so what is this all about? Okay, so future value, this idea comes up in economics, right? I have very little economics knowledge. But I know that future values of like investments are important. We think, hey, looking into the future, if things continue as they are, right, if my interest rate stays the same for the next 10 years or whatever, what's this thing going to be worth at that point, right? What's the future value? Okay. So I won't go into the details of the formula, but here it is. We actually have like the original formula, and then we have the simplified formula that's a little bit easier to just grab for your actual problems. Okay, but let's talk about this first one. So FV is the future value. It's the integral from 0 to capital T. Okay, so again, just like here, we're talking about time. So from the starting moment, like year 0 to year capital T. Notice we also have a lowercase t. The lowercase t also represents time, but it's the variable time, where this t would be like a fixed number. Okay, so there's a nuanced difference between a fixed number of time, like, hey, 10 years from now, and then this t is like the time that is actually currently passing. Okay, and that represents our variable, so it's a dt. So, okay. The big T is a number that we'll plug in. All right, so we're going over a time period. We've got the flow rate, but notice the flow rate is being multiplied by e to the r. R is your interest rate. Capital T minus little t. Okay, what is up with that? Capital T minus little t. Okay, so we're thinking, well, at any given time, right, there's only so much time remaining until we get to capital T, right? So as time is passing, right here, let's say like here's capital T, like time is passing. Well, as we invest this money, it's only going to be in that account like however much is left, right? So if we're at the beginning, we got a lot of time. But as we get closer, the amount of time that it's in like gaining interest, right, at this interest rate gets shorter. So we have to take this difference. Okay. Yeah. So the idea is like the income stream. So it's like we're making money, but immediately we invest it. So the money that's coming in, it's almost like it's just flowing directly into some kind of investment fund, and it's then immediately earning interest for the remaining time period. Okay. So hopefully that formula sort of makes sense. But we have a simplified version here, which is a little bit more useful for our problems. So what's going on here? We really just kind of cleaned up this part, and then we realized we could move this out front. So when you see, I'll just kind of write on the side here, e to the r capital T minus little t, if we do a little algebra on that, we could distribute this r, right? That's probably not difficult, right? R capital T minus r little t. But then what we can do is say, hey, this is e to the r capital T times e to the negative r little t. We can break it apart that way. So what happened is we saw, hey, this e to the r capital T, these are all just numbers. That's a constant. So we can move that out front. And what gets left is the remaining piece, which has our variable. So we got to keep that in the integral. And of course, the f of t stays as well. Okay, so feel free to use either one. I recommend this one because, well, what's going to happen? As soon as you plug your numbers in, you're just going to have to kind of do this anyway. All right. The income stream is continuously invested at interest R for capital T years. Okay. Tell us the future value. Making money and then making interest on the money we just made. That's nice. That's smart right there. Okay. Let's see an example. Find the future value for a continuous income stream with flow rate f of t equals 1250 e to the 0.04 t. Right? That's how fast we're making money. It's actually going up a little bit. So it starts off at 1250, but then as time passes, we make a little bit more and a little bit more every moment. Okay, so this is going to be immediately invested at 3.5% for 10 years. How much is it going to be worth 10 years from now? Well, let's go ahead and apply. I'll try and keep this on the screen. Let's plug in all of our numbers right here. Okay. So I'm going to go for that second formula. Obviously, our R is the 3.5%, but be sure to put as a decimal point 0.035. Okay. Capital T is the 10 years. We integrate from 0 to 10. There's f of t, 1250 e to the 0.04 t. And that gets multiplied by e, because that's in this formula now, e to the negative, we see the r again, 0.035 little t dt. Okay. We got all the pieces plugged in. Now, turns out we can clean this up. We need to clean this up, this integral up, before we go about an antiderivative. And there's a couple things we can do. For one, we realize that we can move this 1250 to the outside. So let's just go ahead and do that. At the same time, we might as well multiply 0.035 times 10. 0.35. E to the 0.35. Okay. Still integrating from 0 to 10. Now what happened here? These two e's became 1. Okay. When we're multiplying these e's, they have the same base, so we can add the exponents. It's really exactly like what we did here, except here we broke it apart. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to say, hey, I have e to the something and e to the something, so let's combine these and I'll add the exponents together. And it turns out, because that one's negative, 0.04 minus 0.035, we're left with 0.005 t. Okay, dt, of course. All right, let's keep going. Got a new sheet here. I'm going to just kind of do it the fast way, avoiding the use sub. So what's happening? So I could take u equals 0.005t, and I could go through all the steps, or I could realize, hey, if I'm going to do an antiderivative, I know the e is going to be the same, and because of the chain rule here, all I got to do is divide by that derivative, which is 0.005, because that would cancel out my chain rule. So that allows me to do that just in one step, which is kind of, once I see that pattern. Okay. So I got the 1250 e to the 0.35 over 0.005 e to the 0.005 t evaluated from 0 to 10. And just a matter of crunching out these numbers. I went ahead and did this division here. 1250 divided by 0.005. Turned out it was 250,000. So I have 250,000 e to the 0.35, and then I plugged in. So plugging in the 10 e to the 0.05, plugging in the 0, e to the 0 gives me a -1. And at that point, I'm just going to grab a calculator and knock this out. Get my final answer. The future value of this income stream getting immediately invested over 10 years turns out to be $18,189.29. Might as well write it as dollars and cents. That's how much it'll be worth in 10 years. There you go. There you go. Now, how much of that is interest? Well, you could. All right, how much did we make and how much was interest that we earned? That's an interesting question. You could find, I didn't do it, kind of wish I had now. You could find the total income. Let's go back here. If you found the total income just for the income stream, the 1250 e to the 0.04t over 10 years, that's just how much income it was. And you could find the difference between that and this answer here. That's how much interest you earned, if you cared to know. Hey, if it was my money, I'd be interested. How much interest am I getting? Very nice, very nice. Okay. I think that'll do it for this video. We're going to do consumers and producer surplus next.